Hello and welcome to another episode of B-Movie Enema the Series. I'm your B-Movie proctologist, Jeff Arbuckle. Over there, joining me as always, is Nurse Disembody. Nurse, what are you looking at?
People seem to be doing something weird out there.
Weird how?
I don't know, just weird.
Oh God, I hope it's not another hate disease. Poop Shoot, are you delivering movies about fighting and bad stuff again? Do we need to call in Cameron Mitchell to fix everything again?
I don't mean weird like that, although I still wouldn't mind punching a mofo if given a reason. No, what I mean is, was there a memo we missed about the dress code for the office?
Not that I'm aware of. Why? What are the people wearing?
Everyone's got a red robe. Kinda stylish, but weird.
I mean, it is October. Maybe it's a costume party, a Red Riding Hood themed party.
If it was a theme party, where's our red hoods? Why weren't we invited?
Well, you did just say you wanted to punch a mofo if you got the chance.
I guess. Anyway, shouldn't you be getting the movie?
Yeah, I suppose so.
What is going on with those people out there?
Alright. Well, this week we've got 1966's Devils of Darkness. And, hey, guess what, Nurse?
You found our red hoods down there?
What? No, Devils of Darkness stars William Sylvester. We saw him in Devil Doll.
Oh no, not another reference to Lindsay Shantef.
Yeah, this whole season of B-Movie Enema the Series has been brought to you by Lindsay Shantef.
Sure has.
But this one is not a Lindsay Shantef joint. However, the connectors are there, right? William Sylvester from Devil Doll. Sylvester was married to Veronica Hurst, who was in the second best secret agent in the whole wide world. I mean, the guy's got fingerprints everywhere. Now, when we previously talked about William Sylvester, I don't remember if I said this or not, or if I mischaracterized him as a Brit, but Sylvester was born in 1922 in Oakland, California. But he went into World War II as part of the U.S. Navy. And after the war, he decided to just simply stay in Britain to work on an acting career. Now, I know I mentioned the fact that Sylvester originated the role of Dr. Heywood Floyd in Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Interestingly, he appeared in the 1974 film Busting, directed by Peter Hyams, who directed 2010, The Year We Make Contact, in which Floyd was recast to be Roy Scheider, for him to take up the role. But most people who've seen both movies would likely more associate the role of Floyd to Scheider, as he was the leading character in 2010, and he had lots to do in that movie. But in the section of 2001 that went into the future after the Dawn of Man portion, and until we finally get the Dave and Frank on board the Discovery, Sylvester is indeed the lead character of the film. He's the one who is coming out to the moon to investigate the artifact that was found there, and he was the guy in charge of sending Discovery out to Jupiter. So, yeah, he's a key figure in a very important movie. Sylvester ended up with a bunch of credits. Most of what he did from 1969 to the end of his career in 1983 were TV show appearances, but here we have another leading role for him.
You know, if we can just get away from the Lindsay Shantef related stuff, I'd be pretty okay with that.
Yeah, but I think with that last bit about Sylvester, we can totally move away from him and Shantef for the rest of the season.
Well, that's comforting.
Did you just do a pun?
What are you talking about?
Did you just make a joke about the director of this movie?
Huh?
Lance Comfort? Yeah, you know what? Never mind.
Oh yeah, sure. I purposely used the word comforting to make the joke.
Okay, whatever. Lance Comfort is actually a somewhat interesting director when it comes to British cinema. Comfort worked only for about 25 years, but ended up making 44 directing credits, making him one of the most prolific British directors of all time. Devils of Darkness was his final film, as he sadly died kind of young in 1966 at the age of 58. Later on, he got some positive reappraisal despite his career mostly spent making B-movies and lesser known or lesser appreciated films. This would also be the final script from writer Lynn Fairhurst. According to IMDb, Fairhurst was actually a critic, so maybe he was kind of like Roger Ebert, the critic who also wrote a couple of movies.
Well, I think that's all cool and stuff, but I'm thinking we should find out if this movie is deserving of any praise or reappraisal.
You know what? Agreed. So we'll get into the first segment of Devils of Darkness, and when we return, we'll talk about some of the other notable people in the movie. So now what's going on out there?
I don't know. It's like these people have torches and they're walking in a line. It looks like some sort of religious ceremony.
You know, that reminds me of something in this movie. They talk about how the villagers in this place that Sylvester's Paul and friends are vacationing to do some sort of religious ceremony, but you know what that means, right? I mean, it's probably some devil shit going on. Is that what's going on out there, nurse? Some devil shit?
I don't know, probably. Although, for some reason, it might also be vampire shit. Are vampire cults a thing? Devil cults are definitely a thing, but are vampire cults real? I feel safe in saying it's some sort of nefarious shit either way.
Well, that's just swell. In Devils of Darkness, we first meet Count Sinistre, which is spelled very similarly to Sinister. So, you know, he's the bad guy. But I think he's a vampire, as we saw in the 1500s when he attacked the Romani girl Tanya, and then he later married her. But in the present of 1965, Paul and his friends are hanging out in this town, and all his friends die. He returns to England, the sole survivor, which, I don't know, I mean, it seems like he could very easily be questioned by the local authorities about possible involvement, but I don't know, what do I know?
The one inspector guy was working with him when that lady went missing, though he doesn't seem all that worried about it or all that good at his job.
Yeah, I would have lots of questions about how serious he's taking his job, but anyway, that's Inspector Malin, played by Peter Illing. Illing was born in 1899 in Austria. He ended up with over 100 credits or appearances in films and television shows. Illing was mostly a character actor, but like director Comfort, he also passed away in 1966. Our Sinister Sinistre is played by Hubert Noel, another longtime character actor. He was mostly known for playing guys you probably wouldn't like much. He's from France. He ended up with over 70 roles in a nearly 40-year career, which he continued to work right up to his death in 1987. One thing he became fairly well known for throughout his career was doing dubbing. He often dubbed lots of major English-speaking stars for films that were shown in Europe. And when you look at Noel in this movie, you just know he's up to no good, right? I mean, like, he looks like he's going to be a bad guy. And they didn't even let that be a mystery right out of the gate. He's unearthed and he's just immediately flies off to do devil vampire shit. The Romani girl he kills, turns, and marries is Tanya, played by Carol Gray. Gray was born in what was called Rhodesia, which is now part of Zimbabwe. She was an early scream queen, at least in the parlance of what we recognize today as a scream queen. Right around this time, she was starring in a couple of other horror films like Island of Terror and the third film in the original Fly series, Curse of the Fly. Shortly after this movie, she returned to Africa and appeared on stage performing in popular plays like Harvey, about the guy who sees an invisible bunny, and Fiddler on the Roof, the play about the guy who fiddles on the roof. But nurse, you ready for another connection to Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah, sure. Just as long as we don't tie back to yet another Lindsay Shantef, we can connect whatever other dots you have.
All right. Well, we met Madeline Braun in the first segment. She was the one who suggested Paul and his friends come out to that small village. She's a socialite art dealer or antiquity dealer or something. Anyway, she's played by Diana Decker. Decker was multi-talented. She was an actor as well as a singer. She also did some of those panel games like we see back in the 50s in America, where celebrity panelists play with normal people or whatever and to do whatever the game is. Think of something like I've Got a Secret or Password. Those types of games. Anyway, while she didn't have too many roles, Devils of Darkness, again, was her final role, as the 60s was basically about the end of her career. This was the only horror film she ever did, but her connection to Kubrick was in a supporting role in 1962's Lolita. Now, we'll come back around to Kubrick a little later with another actress we will meet in the next segment.
I like Diana Decker's IMDb profile pictures. She looks like a serious ball buster.
Yeah, she does.
You said that in a weird way.
Yeah, I did.
Are you? You're turned on by her profile pic, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Ugh, I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah, you are.
Can we just move on?
And the final friend of Paul's to go missing and or killed in this bizarre village is played by Ronna Anderson. Now, Anderson was a Scottish actress. Say, nurse, what's Anne's relationship to Paul?
Beats me.
Yeah. That's part of my only complaint about this movie. Paul is in this village and he seems to be acquaintances or good friends with Madeline. And we will see later in this movie that he's got other good acquaintances and friends back in England, Madeline being one of them. But the people he's here with in this village, Anne and the two guys who die in the cave, I don't feel like they're all that well acquainted. I mean, Anne stays behind and wishes one of the guys to be safe, but it seems as though that guy was her younger brother. The other guy was just a friend, but what's Anne's relationship to Paul?
Maybe she's his girlfriend? They're holding hands at one point when they go to check out the village devil shit.
Yeah, but it doesn't really feel like a coupling. It's like they're related by blood somehow, or just really good platonic friends. It's weird. I mean, he does care a great deal about her going missing, but he doesn't come off as broken up like a lover would be. He hardly cares about the other two guys at all.
Yeah, it's a little unclear. The movie is too slow to not be able to tell us exactly what their relationship is.
Yeah, I almost feel like they had to figure out a way to get Paul and Sinise together in the plot, but there was no way to make a guy like Paul be naturally curious or end up in a scenario in which the rest of the movie could happen without Anne. It's just a little messy.
That's putting it lightly.
Uh-oh, sounds like somebody is not liking this movie too much so far.
It could still try to win me over.
Well, there is one final piece of business to deal with here in this village before Paul returns to England, but will the possession of Sinise's talisman bring the problem back with him? Let's find out. Alright, so Anne really got it pretty bad at the start of that segment, didn't she? Now, I'm not sure if she was some sort of sacrifice or was going to be turned into a monster person or whatever, but Sinise burns her to death with a torch.
Pretty gnarly, I guess.
People still being weird out there in the office building?
Yeah, now they have coffins out there and they're moving around it like they're doing the hokey pokey.
Not the hokey pokey.
Yeah, definitely some devil shit going on out there.
Well, anyway, this is one of those movies in which you can't really trust anyone. As we saw right at the start of that last segment, when they killed Anne, everyone in this village is part of the cult run by devil vampire man Sinise. We see the waiter and the manager from the hotel, the inspector. Everyone there is under the power of the vampire guy. But are they also vampires, or are they just enthralled by him? I mean, what was the plan here? I'm picking up several different ideas here. There's a cult. There's obvious magic. Sinise turned into a bat, so he's a vampire. There's a talisman, which also seems to be based in witchcraft. I feel like this movie wanted to be something specific, but then also wanted to have all these other monster types or supernatural things involved too.
Yeah, it's obvious our bad guy's a vampire, but where's all the blood sucking? I want to see some vampire action. I mean, that one chick who comes off a little Audrey Hepburn and a little bit of a 60s version of a manic pixie dream girl has our vampire man nuzzling in her neck, but where's the blood? Where's the real biting down on her neck? Where's it at, Jeff? I want vampire action.
Yeah, it's weird. The easy joke is to say that this is British, so it opts to go tame instead of really getting to the blood and sex of a vampire scenario, but that's not so much the case, now is it? Hammer was out there making all sorts of Dracula movies in the 60s with blood, biting necks, and all sorts of sexy cleavage on its victims. That's why I said this movie feels like it wants to have the bad guy be something like a vampire, but more than a vampire, but also backs off with the sex element too. He clearly has people under his mental command, but they aren't acting all that sinister or like they're even being controlled. It's a really confusing movie to put your finger on as to what the actual cult is and what the power that the main guy has. In some ways it's clear. He has followers who are enthralled to him in some way. Some of them are made immortal, near vampire-like creatures, I guess. But in other ways, they're just normal people doing his bidding, but also kind of lackadaisical about it. Yeah, I guess I'll do my evil cult leader's bidding, but I won't be too obvious about it. Anyway. That girl nurse disembodied called both Audrey Hepburn and a manic pixie dream girl is Karen, played by Tracy Reed. Now, she comes into this high society party that Madeline is throwing. Now, she works for Madeline temporarily, but her actual profession is as a model. Now, Tracy Reed is our final major connection to Stanley Kubrick for this film. She's also our first of two connections to James Bond in this segment. Reed didn't have a massive career, and it really only lasted about a dozen years or so and 30 films, but she was quite appreciated, mostly for playing attractive women. At one point, when Diana Rigg was leaving the Avengers, Reed was considered a replacement, but that didn't happen. A memorable role for her came in 1964 when she appeared as Miss Scott in Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. The role was memorable for two reasons. First, she was George C. Scott's General Turgidsen's mistress and appeared only in a tiny bathing suit. Second, she was the lone woman in the cast of the film. I also like when she appears in the movie, she gets a call from the president. She answers because Turgidsen is busy taking a shit in the bathroom. It's great. But that same year, she also appeared in another Peter Sellers movie, A Shot in the Dark, which, as I mentioned last week, was the first sequel to The Pink Panther, and the only movie in the series that didn't have the words Pink Panther in the title. So, The Devils of Darkness actually came along at a time in which she was riding high off of those two films. She later appeared in the 1967 Bond parody Casino Royale as a femme fatale. Now, don't get me started on that version of Casino Royale. The only thing good about the movie was the music from the film. But that's actually 3 films right there that I mentioned from her filmography that starred Peter Sellers.
I hope they liked each other or would be pretty uncomfortable working together all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, just 2 last people to talk about here. Upon returning to England, Paul talks to Inspector Hardwick. Hardwick is played by Victor Brooks. Brooks ended up with something like 140 roles in movies and on TV shows. He appeared in the 1963 sci-fi horror classic The Day of the Triffids, a movie that also featured Carol Ann Ford, who played Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, in the early days of Doctor Who. He also appeared in the consensus greatest James Bond film ever, Goldfinger, so there's our other connection to James Bond. Playing Dr. Kelsey, we have Eddie Byrne. Byrne racked up 100 roles in his career. Again, he was mostly a character actor, but there are a few recognizable films on his resume. These included the 1962 version of Mutiny on the Bounty, a pair of 1959 films, The Mummy and Jack the Ripper, and he also appeared in Island of Terror with Carol Gray. However, later on, his final live-action role was in 1977 with Star Wars.
Never heard of it.
Har har.
Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. There's clearly vampire and or devil shit going on out there. I'm gonna go out there and bust it up. We clearly need to make it possible for us to leave here tonight when we're through, and that's going to be hard if we have a cult doing weirdo cult things in the lobby.
Alright, fair enough. Good luck with that.
Lock and load, baby. Lock and load.
Okie dokie, let's get into the finale of Devils of Darkness, and hopefully Nurse Disembody will get rid of all this cult business outside our office. So, I can't help but notice.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't help but notice you have yourself one of those culty red robe things.
Yep.
Care to explain that?
I figured if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
So, are you a vampire now?
No.
Okay, are you a witch?
Nope, not a witch.
Do you have any kind of magic?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you mind controlled by the cult leader?
Vaguely, I guess?
Vaguely? So like, you can just, like, do whatever of your own free will?
Well, sort of. Sometimes, I guess. I mean, the cult leader is my Dark Lord and Master, and he does feed from my blood, but I don't feel like one of those mindless zombie-like hypnotized slaves or whatever. In fact, I can do my normal work and throw big, high society parties and stuff.
Then what's the point of the cult?
To do whatever our Dark Lord and Master commands of us.
Wait, didn't you just say you were only vaguely controlled?
Yeah.
But I'm so confused.
Trust me, I am totally devoted to our Dark Lord and Master. I am his blood vessel for him to feed upon, but I'm still mostly my normal self. I just have to go to him whenever he mentally calls to me and wear these really nice and silky red robes as I do his bidding without a single thought of resistance. It's not a bad situation if you ask me. I mean, you can ask me, but I'm already programmed to tell you that everything is A-okay with me and that I'm normal, but in truth, I'm a completely brainwashed slave of the Dark Lord and Master.
Your cult is confusing and weird.
That's religion for you.
Are you still, like, able to do, like, your normal review of the movie?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I am completely brainwashed and a loyal slave to the Dark Lord and Master, but I do still have my own free will to review movies.
Fine. Whatever.
I really wanted to like this movie, but, I mean, it's way too slow and it doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be a vampire movie? Does it want to be a mind-controlling evil cult leader movie? What is it? The dialogue didn't grab me. In fact, it was kinda stinky. I thought I might like the tone or the mood of this movie, but it just didn't work out. I think the dialogue and the pace of the plot just killed the movie. Plus, I kept getting distracted by the pounds of makeup caked onto every actor and actress. Then, the main bad guy, Mr. Sinister, whatever his name was, he was defeated by his own dumbassery by walking into a cross. That was after God apparently struck the house with lightning. Is that what happened? Oh, whatever. I don't know and I don't think I care. I guess everyone died, but the guy in his mid to late 40s gets the 20-something girl at the end.
I mean, that last thing was kind of cool from my point of view.
Hush you. I have to give Devils of Darkness a watery 2 poops out of 5. Did my review please you, my Dark Lord and Master?
Yes, my beautiful Nurse Disembody. You have done well. This movie did a very bad job at portraying a weird cult. Or sort of mind control and sort of vampire and sort of devil shit. This is not how it is done.
Of course it's you.
Yes, Dr. Jeff. It is I, the great Devilini, master hypnotist and now the powerful leader of a cult of my own.
All hail the great Devilini, our all-powerful Dark Lord and Master!
Yes, very good indeed.
Fuck off and give me back my nurse.
Oh, okay. I will do so, but only because it suits me to do so.
Oh, hey, I'm thinking much more clearly now. Thanks, Jeff.
But it was I who released you, not Dr. Jeff. Me, the great Devilini.
Sometimes you just gotta give Jeff a W from time to time, or he gets kinda pissy and sulks around like a jerk.
I get it. It's understandable.
Oh, and while you're at it, either fix the people out there in the lobby who are setting fire to those people in the coffins, or move them somewhere else. I mean, we gotta leave here in a minute, and we gotta go through that door to get to our car, and Nurse D gets cranky if we can't walk directly from the door of our office to the front door and to our car.
It's true. I do get cranky.
See?
I will ask them to burn the coffins with the people inside them someplace else. Do you have a recommendation?
I don't know, probably just out back will be fine. What do you think, Nurse?
Yeah, out back is probably good.
Oh, okay. I'll move my devoted followers out back. Are you sure neither of you want to join my cult? Nurse Disembody, you have been part of the cult. Didn't it feel good to be in it?
No, I actually hated it quite a bit. I'd rather go back to a normal, boring old church than be forced to join your cult again.
That's really bad. I really need to rethink how I run my cult.
Okay, cool. So, can you, do that someplace else?
Yeah, it's time to wrap up this episode and you're in the way.
Okay, but one day, maybe months from now, years from now, or it could be tomorrow, it maybe could have been yesterday, or even later tonight. You know, whenever it is least expected and stuff, I'll be back. Yes, I'll come back. The great Devilini. Away!
Well, I guess that's that, huh?
Yep, looks like it.
Cool.